We continue our knowledge sharing mission through a series of interviews with marketing leaders from all over the world. And today we are thrilled to have Lisa here with us. Lisa, welcome to CMO Chats. Please could you just introduce yourself and just give a quick background about your role and your company.
Hi Neil, very delighted to be here. My name is Lisa Ortner-Ghouze. I'm the head of marketing for a division of Standard Chartered. Standard Chartered is a large international bank headquartered in the UK, but we have a historical large presence in Asia, the Middle East and Africa. I'm based in Singapore. I'm actually Austrian national, but I've been here in Asia for 11 years. I lived in London and New York beforehand, and I've always worked in the financial services space. So that's kind of my core expertise. We provide as a bank retail banking, private banking, and corporate and investment banking services to our clients. And my marketing remit is really focused on the B2B space, or the corporate and investment banking portion of Standard Chartered.
So what's your main marketing focus at the moment within that?
So if I had to summarize it, there are like three main areas that I and my team really focus on. So if I split it up from a client segment and geographic perspective, a really, really big priority for us is to grow market share and mind share with investors in the West. Investors, but that mean asset managers, hedge funds, pension funds, sovereign wealth funds that are based in Europe and the US. From a thematic and deal perspective, we are really laser focused on promoting our services around sustainability and ESG. That's a big focus for us as a bank, and clearly for many other banks and many other organizations. We spend as marketers a lot of time promoting our sustainable finance and transition finance capabilities. We talk about how we partner with our clients across specific sectors, for example, oil and gas, aviation, shipping, clean energy, renewables, how we help them move to greener practices. And lastly, from a innovative product perspective, digital assets is a big differentiator for us. And by that, I mean things like blockchain and tokenization, crypto trading, cryptocurrencies, because not many banks or large international banks have this offering at the moment.
Fantastic. Well, they're all booming at the moment in the last couple of weeks.
Not only because we had some interesting elections in the US, but also because clearly the industry, I think, is at a maturity level where they're going to really, I think it's going to really skyrocket.
Large question now, but how do you define success in marketing?
Do you know, for me, it comes down to really being seen as a business partner. Understanding the business intimately, being able to speak the language of the business, and really being a partner in crime to them, not just some, logistics coordinator. It's a real pet peeve of mine. I see a lot of my, colleagues in other organizations just staying very much at the surface. I think successful marketing is when you really join forces with the business to grow market share, defend market share, and really help them move the needle commercially. That's how I define success of marketing.
What would you say at the moment is the biggest challenge that marketers face?
Oh my God, it's the perennial big challenge, which is measuring ROI, measuring your return on investment, especially in the B2B space. I mean, that is really, really, really difficult. When I think of more traditional marketing techniques, let's say events, we chatted a bit earlier, you organize large events. How do you really measure the ROI of an event in commercial terms, like how many deals happened as a result of an event? Usually there's good client engagement, but what really happened commercially after that? Unless you have a really strong CRM system in place where you can really track this over a long period of time. And in B2B, sales cycles are really long. They can be years long. So that's really difficult. But also, from a digital marketing perspective, of course, we have metrics like click-through rates, view rates, like how long did a person stay on watching a particular video, where did you go after? But again, what does this mean in commercial terms to the business? Like I can have these marketing metrics, but they rarely mean anything meaningful to a banker. So kind of translating what we do into business, tangible business outcomes. So as a result, measuring ROI, I think that is really challenging.
Let's talk about the marketing's relationship with sales. Out of all the marketing incentives that you're in charge of, which one has your sales department traditionally been more grateful for or excited about?
So, I mean, in the bank, it's going to be events, physical touch points with their customers. That's what they can feel, that marketing is something really, really tangible for them. I think that's what they're probably most appreciative with. Content and digital marketing is a bit more aloof. For the point I just shared earlier, it's just harder for them to quantify the impact it has. But I'm going to go a few years back when I worked for a different organization, Fidelity, as an asset manager. We were rolling out a big brand campaign, and I don't know, in your world, but in my world, it's always really difficult to justify like a big investment in a brand campaign and what is really the tangible impact for like a salesperson, as you called it. So I thought we were quite clever around this. It turned out to be a really, really successful campaign because we had a limited budget, but we decided to actually involve the salespeople in part of the brand campaign. So they became our talent. So we saved on talent, and they start in the videos, in the ads. So they could see themselves on digital ads. They could see themselves in Singapore on MRT station, big ads, and they were all kind of visibly involved in the brand campaign. And it was extremely successful because they were so proud of it, and they would talk to their clients about it. And as a result, I really could see, well, it has really allowed me to articulate a better message to my clients about me, and has helped me in my client relationships. And I thought it was clever, it was extremely successful, and I would highly recommend anyone planning big brand campaigns to really think about, is there an opportunity to involve your front line in them and make them part of it?
Definitely. That's definitely flashed through a couple of adverts in my mind as well that I know were with people within the organization that works very well. And well, that might tie into my next question on which marketing strategies have wielded the most success in terms of engagement and lead generation and things like that. Was it this, and or what other ones would you say?
I think definitely this is super high on the list. I would say very, very, very successful campaign. Leads, yes, but also people were really proud of it and talked about it for years, which I think, I don't know, you can't ask for more than this. I think, again, in the banking space, it's a much more hyper-targeted approach. It has yielded good, better results for us rather than the mass marketing. So very targeted, very exclusive client engagements. So I mentioned to you earlier that a big focus of us is really targeting investors. So these are sophisticated clients, and they want access to equally sophisticated people that really provide them with unique insights. And so we organize, for example, like a very exclusive thought leadership dinner series for the top investment officers, portfolio managers, again, with some very senior people also in our bank. Very small, I'm talking 20 to 30 people. But clients come because they get access to, again, insights that they wouldn't necessarily have access to otherwise. It's very bespoke, and it's pretty straightforward afterwards to really monetize these conversations. And I think rather than going mass, going very sharp and focused, I think I would say has been a very, very successful technique and tactic.
Nice. No, I think so. Anything that you get that excitement and buy-in from the internal team is way more powerful. And sort of, you were saying with the small dinners that you're doing, like, so does your ICP sort of change with per dinner, or like do you have, you know, a key target that you're looking at?
It doesn't really, I mean, for these very intimate dinners, I mean, there were always going to be, in this case, very senior portfolio managers or chief investment officers or chief sustainability officers. So it doesn't change very much. I think for the broader campaigns, again, I think we have a much broader range, let's say broader campaigns from a digital marketing perspective, where we, I think, just have it less focused and more broader range. But I think for the intimate dinners, I think that's kind of, we stay focused. And I think a lot of marketing and sales is really keeping at it, right? And the focus and the prioritization, so that you really can see movement of the need. It takes time. It's not just one event. It's years of going after a particular segment in different markets. And I think if you have discipline of really saying no to certain things, but yes, very, very deliberately focusing on a particular segment, a particular geography over a prolonged period of time, and by that I mean certainly multiple years, I think yields better results than trying a bit of this, trying a bit of that. It's just here, there, and nowhere at the end of the day.
Banking and insurance have always taken the lead on especially like the sort of networking dinners and things like that. They've always been very strong on their focus on that and just keeping up with that, because they know how sort of key those relationships are. Maybe you know, to the small scale events that you run, so what are the significant challenges that you face when hosting these types of events?
Do you know, it's not usually we have a very, very interesting speaker setup, so that's not the challenge. I think it's more, so I think I mentioned earlier, I'm not going to mention how many people work for Standard Chartered. We've got around 85,000 of staff, so it's a larger kind of bank, and also with that we have a larger sized marketing team, and so there are many events happening all around the world, or even within a certain market. Let's say Singapore, where I'm based, there could be a couple of events happening in the same week. I think the challenge often lies in really knowing what the broader bank is really doing, what the broader teams are really doing, and not cannibalizing our own events purpose, and really just being much more connected. And it's easier said than done when you work for such a large organization, because there's so many different teams, different segments. As I explained, there's a retail bank, there's a private bank, there's an institutional bank. So I think that is probably the hardest, to really doing a few things really well, but really coordinating with the different business units, with the different market teams, to saying what are we really going to focus on, and what does make sense to combine, because initially everyone wants to do their own thing, right? But then when you look at it holistically over a period of I don't know, a quarter, you see, well, there's actually a lot of client interactions that we are generating, and would it make sense to kind of combine them? I think that's kind of a process we are really going through, and I wouldn't say we've solved that. We're moving in a good direction, but that continues to be a challenge.
Can imagine. I know people who are challenged by that with 2,000 people in their companies. So yeah, obviously having that is a massive thing to work through. So in terms of being a marketing leader, what do you believe is the biggest opportunity for marketing leaders today that might not be available in the past?
I alluded to it earlier. So I think that using data that you have at your disposal much more strategically and smartly, and it sounds so obvious, but it's actually really, really difficult, because working for a large organization, we don't really currently have one centralized data repository, like a really well-oiled CRM system, for example. So you kind of working off different systems, Excel spreadsheets. Then you get data from, let's say, your media buying agencies, your own digital website performance. And so really bringing these all together continues to be quite a manual process. So I think the biggest opportunity I would see is really that this is fully automated. It's a many year-long process. We are probably a couple of years into that journey, and I think it will take us at least a couple more years to be optimistic to really get there. And then, of course, there's a whole discipline of how do you keep the data clean so that you can really confidently know that what you are seeing from your own data analysis is actually reflective of how customers are engaging. I think that's a massive opportunity. So that aside, I mentioned earlier too, I think for marketing leaders and their teams, really spend time to understand the business and the industry you operate in. It's a pet peeve of mine. I see too many people who stay very superficial, and you need to understand your customers, you need to understand the business, you need to understand how you make your money, and you need to be able to speak to your business stakeholders, to sales, to your executives, the language of the business. And so the real opportunity lies in raising the bar and becoming real business partners, and being ahead of a game. Like you understand what trends are impacting your particular sector. How could they maybe accelerate what you're doing? How could they be massively disruptive of what you're doing, and really strategizing with the business of how you're going to tackle it? I think that's the biggest opportunity.
Would you have any career advice for anyone starting in the marketing industry?
Oh gosh, again, it's the same of the same, but I think learn about your business, learn about your industry, be curious, really go deep and understand what you're actually doing as a company. The second piece of advice, being slightly more seasoned, is just don't get caught up too much or at all in the corporate politics. They're a real energy sucker. Focus on where you can make a difference. And lastly, also kind of do what makes you happy. It's just a job. Don't lose sleep over it. Put it into perspective, and find a happy medium of what you're doing and maybe your personal priorities.
Well said. And just lastly, how would you describe the role of global head of marketing in one word, and why?
Can I use two?
As long as you hyphenate it.
Business partner. That's how I would describe it. A successful senior marketer or any marketer is really partner of the business, because you are there to help to grow the business, defend the business, segment the business, like segment the client base, who are you going after. That's what a successful marketer is meant to be. So yeah, business partner. If the business views you as that, I think you really have done a good job, and you're going to go very far.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for those insights. It was great to hear. And
thank you so much. It's been a pleasure chatting to you.